Hello everybody, and welcome to another studio session. Today we're picking up where we left off last week, so we're still making techno tunes on the Volca Sample, and it's still quite beginner friendly, so if you would like to pick my brain about how I approach making those sequences, you're in for a treat. So moving on to the next track, let's start with the exact same principle, slot number 10, 4 on the floor kick. Okay, this kick has some serious sub bass going on, so let's go to the part number 9. Let's pick the same kick, and I'm going to place it on every single slot. Let's hear how that sounds. It just sounds like a bunch of kicks, but if we close the filter a little bit and move the starting point, maybe let's close the filter a little bit more. And on the track 8 we're going to place some hi-hats. And as you can see, with the decay knob we can make a long white noise blast into a pretty nice hi-hat, which allows us to open it up during the performance. Make it into more of a open hat. So let's go to number 7 and let's do the same thing that we did in the previous track. Let's just fill it up with a bunch of other hi-hats. Okay, we can record that little motion with the pitch. Let me solo that so you can hear better what's going on. It has a pretty nice shuffle to it, right? Okay, and with that we can place snares or claps. So with this decent rolling groove, we can go back to the strategy from the previous track and we can just start spamming the slot, searching for a sample that will inspire us. The thing with creating stuff like this is to just not be afraid of throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. Sometimes you will nail it, sometimes you will hate it, but you won't know if you don't try, so... Okay, I'm not really vibing with that, so no need to commit to that. Let's go back to searching. Okay, we may be onto something, but currently I'm going to mute it and proceed without that. Maybe we'll find something better, maybe we'll find another idea. Right now it sounded a little bit empty, so that's why I'm moving on. We may try and go to loop, so function and slot 11. And we may try to find a sweet spot trying to turn it into a pad. And with the decay knob, we may create a little bit of decay for the pad, so it fades out instead of lasting indefinitely. Let's find a good spot for it. And what's cool, that if we have motion sequencing turned on, we can record automation. Okay, we have some movement going. kick in volume and in pitch. Okay, let's get rid of that. Let's put a reverb on both of these. And we recorded the automation for the acid sound. Currently, I'm trying to fit those sounds together so they work well in the mix with each other instead of fighting for space. And it may seem like an insignificant change when you move the starting point just one unit forward, but sometimes it makes world of a difference, especially if you take time to dial in all of your samples in all of your compositions. I think I like letting some of the attack from the bass come through. And this hi-hat comes in quite jarring, right? So what we can do is lower it in the volume, maybe lower it in pitch. And it's already way better, right? And the clap stands out a little bit, so let's maybe lower it in volume. How about we try to change the sample? Okay, let's try and change the sample for the bass. Maybe to an actual bass sample. One thing that we could do is turn on the motion sequencing on the bass and then start lowering some of the volumes so they ramp up, for example, 50, 60, and 70. And sadly, you can't really copy your settings, so you have to hold this step and do it on every single one that you want to affect. So let's see how that will sound. Ideally, the bass will sound like it's sidechained. How about we start playing around with the pitch a little bit? Let's make it an octave higher. Okay, the time that I have for filming today is slowly coming to a close. I'm going to work on this one off camera a little bit, but tomorrow I'm going to come back to the studio and we're going to make some more banging techno tunes. Alright, new day. I just came from a very nice walk and I'm ready to make some music, so let's jump into it. So once again, we're going to start on the part number 10, and you guessed it, we're going to put a kick on there. Today we're not going to do the 4 on the floor kick pattern, we're going to experiment a little bit. Because as much as the techno genre is pretty much synonymous for many people with the 4 on the floor pattern, if you dig deeper you will notice that a lot of the cool tunes are very experimental and they break away from that pattern. So yeah, let's just mess around and see what we can come up with. Hey, I like that. Okay, which kick is that? It's kick number 2, so going to number 9, we're picking kick number 2 as well, because it has a very nice beefy tail. Okay, let's lower the volume of the last one. And maybe let's close the filter all the way down. Yeah. Maybe let's even make it shorter. Yeah, okay, I'm vibing with that. So we're going to create a hi-hat pattern now. Okay, it's going somewhere. And we shaped it a little bit with the pitch, starting point and the decay. And before we add anything else, I would proceed to the melodic elements. So I'm going back to part number 1 and same strategy, exit step mode. And let's look for something that inspires us. Okay, so we've toned our pad minus 10 semitones. The way I think of it when I work on the Volca Sample is that I want to go plus 2, 3, 5, 7, 8 or 10. That creates a minor scale, and that means that all of the notes will work well with each other. Okay, so what I just did was to turn on the loop mode, and then I used the length to determine the spacing between the repeating of the note, right? And that creates sort of a mono delay effect. And I'm not going to place this step on the grid because it would retrigger every single time we reach the beginning of the bar. It would sound like this. And how long can you listen to that without getting bored, right? So my approach would be to let it play, let the sequence play, and while jamming, while recording the performance, I will trigger this note periodically. And with that, we can move to part number 3. And let's proceed with the same strategy. Let's reverse it. Hey, that's nice. Okay, let's try to place it. Okay, so if we have our pad at -10 semitones, then for this little sound to be an octave higher, we need to go +2. So everything adds up to 12. -10 plus 10 is 0, and then +2 is 12. Let's use the starting point to make sure that it fits within the bar. And now going to part number 7, I'm going to place a clap pattern, but once again we're not doing the typical 4 on the floor thing. Let's try it with reverb. Okay, I like it. It kinda fits. Yeah, let's make the second hit a little bit darker with the high cut. And just like that, we turned a pretty bassy sound into something that sounds more like a hi-hat. Then we recorded it, and we can go ahead and turn on the motion sequencing, then go and start panning it. Nice. Let's try it with reverb. Okay. Might be a little bit lower in the volume. Okay, so what's pretty cool on the Volca Sample too is the fact that we're actually able to offset the start of the sample. It's not the same as changing the starting point, because the starting point cuts off the beginning of the sample, but if we have our sample dialed in, we can then hold the function button and turn the starting point knob. As you can see, it says DL, which means that the sample of our choice on this particular track will be delayed by a certain amount. So you can use that to add a little bit more shuffle, a little bit more groove, and a little bit of wonky swing to your tracks. Let's go more extreme just to show you. Right now it sounds like it's completely off time, right? And now it's perfectly on time. But if we go somewhere in between, we can actually have the sound pop out a little bit more, right? And now let's lower the volume. And I think that sounds pretty sweet. So, that's it for the video. By the end, off camera, I was playing around with the sequences that I've made, and I accidentally overwritten one of them. It happened because I have pretty big hands and I tried to save some small changes to the sequence, and I pressed the wrong slot even though I didn't mean to. Needless to say, I got pretty annoyed with that, and I went from having 3 sequences to having 2 sequences, and that made me reconsider if I really would like to perform a full set on the Volca Sample. But if you still would like to see something like that, then let me know in the comments. Maybe I will prepare something like that. If not, I will probably prefer to perform on something like Digitact. And yeah, I hope this video was enjoyable. I hope that you've learned something. Consider checking out my Patreon if you're interested in getting the sample pack that I was using in this video. It's called Inspiration Kit. And if Patreon is not your thing and you would still like to throw some money in my direction, you can buy me a coffee. I left links in the description. And if throwing money at strangers on the internet is not your thing either, then consider subscribing, leaving me a like, leaving me a comment. It helps with the algorithm, it keeps me motivated, and it's a win-win. So yeah, I hope that you've enjoyed your time here, and I will see you next time. Take care.